So when society comes to campus, meaning when all this stuff is happening in the real world outside this campus, just because you come through wherever street that was, what I turned in, it doesn't mean that that little civil unrest doesn't manifest itself on your campus. So how do you make sure it doesn't infect you? Well, I'm going to talk to you guys about a concept. I think I created it. I probably didn't, but it's called racial intelligence, and it's about, basically, it means this: how to make sure that race and racism doesn't create problems in your life, and vice versa, that race and racism, you don't use race and racism to create problems in other people's lives. Where am I at on time? I'm moving too fast. That's that energy drink. So, okay, perfect. All right, so a couple rules. This word was used a lot, I think around in the 80s, called tolerance. I don't like that word, because tolerance means I don't really like you and deal with you, but I'll tolerate you. Sometimes people still use that word, you shouldn't. Diversity is better than tolerance, but it's not perfect, because diversity says, okay, we gotta have somebody Asian at the table, right? We gotta have at least one Latino person, so we're just gonna do it for paperwork reasons. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, but that's not pure either. Inclusion is pure. It's saying, in order for this institution to work at its best, we need different perspectives and viewpoints, and we need racially different people to bring something to the table that just us can't provide. So step two, and on the positive part, one of the first things you have to realize is that we are conditioned to be racist. All of us have been taught on a day-to-day basis in society by our parents, the media, the news, broadcasters, etc. We have all been trained to be racist. And the problem is, we're not only trained to be racist, but we don't have a lot of interactions with people of other races. So what you've heard about black people maybe be true because you don't have any black friends, you've never been around black people. And so where you don't have any understanding, you fill those voids of information with stereotypes. So I heard this about them, I don't really know them, so when I see one, I'm just gonna assume that this is how they are. This is how they are. So one of the first things you have to do and erasing basically means making sure you're not being a racist. You gotta acknowledge the fact, hey, I'm trained to be racist and I do have some racial biases internally. Next, you gotta accept the reality that everybody is not a certain way. So I know I'm a racist, but I have to be intelligent enough to know that all X people are not this way. And then I have to have a mind to just wanna be fair and just naturally wanna see things work out for everyone. I'm gonna skip these slides. Why do we need racial intelligence? It's just because we need society to be better. You need your campus to be better. Here are some, you can tell if you're racially intelligent. I'm gonna go through some of these slides because you might be wondering, am I racially intelligent? Well, I'm gonna give you some of the characteristics of a racially intelligent person. First of all, you gotta know that we're not colorblind. People use that term colorblind, they use it with a good heart, but it's not true. It's impossible to be colorblind. And so it's important for you to know that that's not the goal. The goal is to see you, see what color you are, and still have love for you, basically. Next, you gotta understand that race does matter. We live in a culture where race does matter. Sometimes people say it's not about race. If you saw the discrimination stats, it is about race. And then not denying the existence of racism. I've had people of all races at some point or another tell me racism isn't real, and people use it as an excuse, and on and on and on. And if you have racial intelligence, you're going to understand that there is an existence, racism does exist. Understand that all people have biases. If a person says to you, I have no racial biases, they're probably lying. It's impossible. When we're being conditioned that when we see a person of a certain color, there's automatic thoughts that come in. Like if a black guy walked through that door right now, we all turned around, a lot of us will have some automatic thoughts that pop up. The analogy I usually give is lust. It's kind of like it's automatic, as if whatever you into, if it walked through that door and you see it, you might look back if you don't catch yourself, right? It's the same with racism. It's so ingrained in us that the thoughts can become very automatic. Whoops. Racially intelligent people, they understand that all negative interactions with people of a different race, it doesn't always have to be because of race. So just because a guy flicks you off at the light and he's white and you're Latino, it doesn't mean because you were Latino, he flicks you off. It could be because you almost ran him off the road, right? So, people who don't have racial intelligence, whenever there's a situation between two races, it's always about race, and sometimes it's not. People who are racially intelligent, they don't assume that they know everything about other people and their cultures, and they don't even assume to know everything about their own culture. And they also are energized by the presence of other races. If you walk in a room and you see people who are not your race and it's like a downer, you lack racial intelligence, and probably more than likely you're a racist. But if you see other races when you enter a room and it kind of energizes you, that's an indication of racial intelligence. Racially intelligent people, they research and respect the history of other races, they celebrate the accomplishments of other races, and they consider all racial groups to play a part in U.S. progress. People with high racial intelligence, they can discuss issues of race without becoming inappropriately emotional. I don't know if you ever had discussions with some people that every time we talk about race, either they get angry or they get sad or just never can stay intellectual. That's a sign of a lacking of emotional intelligence. Okay, concrete strategies. These are some things you can do. This is the ultimate goal when you're dealing as it relates to cross-racial rapport building, meaning how to get along with people who are not your race. The goal is a goal of appreciation and celebration of other people's culture, their ways of expressing themselves, their dialect, their identity, the way that they look, their worldview, and their history. Once you can do these things, once you can celebrate that in other people, you're like well on your way of not being towards not being a racist. So here's some very basic steps. You can engage in cultural events. You can watch movies about other racial histories, attend community discussions, challenge your parents' perspectives, interact with people of other races, and join groups where other races are present. It's kind of like, it could be like church or wherever. This is very basic stuff. Be aware of your biases. You have to really sit down and think about what are some negative thoughts I have about white people, or what are some negative thoughts I have about Asians, and deal with those biases. You want to resist the superiority complex to think that your race is better than another race. You have to intentionally block those thoughts out and replace them with genuine hope. And always assume the best in people that you don't know. Give a person an opportunity to prove that they're good and not bad. Skipping that one. When you're dealing with cross-racial interactions, first of all, be yourself. It's pretty annoying for me when I'm interacting with somebody that's not a black guy and they just all of a sudden start acting like a black guy. It gets annoying. So be yourself, be genuine. Expect that sometimes, because cross-racial interactions can be sloppy, mistakes will happen. It's kind of like your first date. If you're not used to interacting with people of other races, it's like if you're not like I remember my first few dates, I wasn't used to hanging out with females. So the first few dates that I went on, they were awkward. I said stupid things, there were awkward silences, et cetera, et cetera. It may get that way as well sometimes when you're interacting with someone who's not of your race. So here's a couple activities. I'm gonna fly through these. Something you can think about. If you hear something you're interested in, and this is what I'll be emailing to, I'm gonna say you for everything. Everything we're doing is going to you. Okay. So think about this. If you were rating all the different races in America, which race would you give the lowest rating? And then ask yourself, what specific assumptions do I have about this group? And then ask yourself, why do I have these assumptions? What did I hear? What did I see? What did I experience? Here's something you could do to kind of fix some of your negative assumptions. So think about let's say you just said, hey, the group that I don't like the most are Jews. Well, write down what you don't like about Jews and then replace that with 2 positive thoughts about the Jewish individuals. Something else you can do, think about 2 people from another racial group that you feel like, hey, you know what? That person seems kind of cool. I think I can have a good conversation with them. Figure out who those people are and then take some steps in the next 7 days to, I won't say force the interaction, but put yourself in a situation where you're interacting with that person. All right. Individual perspective. A lot of professors do this in the classroom and they mess up. They'll ask a person, whatever they're talking about, they'll say, hey, as a black man, what do you think about what we're talking about? And sometimes that works. Sometimes people don't care, but some people get offended by it because they feel like they're being soloed out and they represent the whole group of people. So the best thing to say is, instead of saying as a blank woman, say maybe, how do you feel? And say the person's name. It's just safer. Instead of making them the voice of a whole race of people. In the next 2 weeks, research and identify a setting which people from other racial groups typically congregate. Church, malls, festivals, etc. Now schedule a day to immerse yourself in that setting. I mentioned earlier that when something bad happens when we're interacting with someone of a different race, we always say it was race. That's all it is. That person's a racist. Think about 3 other things that it could have been. So let's just say one day, again, you were at the stoplight, somebody gave you the finger, they wasn't of your race, but you blamed it on race. Ask yourself, what other factors could it have been? Could I have almost ran them off the road? Could they have been having a bad day? What if he was giving me the peace sign and I misinterpreted it? Whatever it may be. The golden rule, don't pull the race card. A lot of people on all sides pull the race card. You got the classic example, black guy doesn't get the job, and he says, oh, they didn't give me the job because of my race, not admitting the fact that his resume is trash, right? Or you got the white guy that says, well, I applied to Harvard and I didn't get in because they're letting all the Asians in to keep a quota, not admitting that, bro, you barely graduated high school, how you think you're getting in Harvard, right? So don't pull the race card unless you can prove that what you're saying is directly related to race. Almost done. Avoiding the haters. There's so many radio personalities and political figures that you could be chilling, enjoying your day, and boom, here they are on TV, bringing up race in a negative way that then makes you mad. It's almost like they talk to the racist part of you and constantly keep the racist part of you agitated. You may need a break from that. Identify 2 racial groups that you would like to learn more about. And in the next 7 days, take steps to expand your knowledge about those races. I would recommend buying a book or watching a movie. That's the easiest way to get some quick information. List 3 great leaders from a racial group that you kind of hold in low regard. Every racial group has had great leaders and people who have made the whole world better. Great accomplishments. Think about a racial group that you, again, have low regard for. And now think about 3 great things that those groups of people have done that are undeniably great. And find a way to, again, either get a movie, buy a book, etc., to kind of immerse yourself in that experience. For you spiritual people, write a prayer to your higher power. Ask your higher power for knowledge, wisdom, and skills that you can use to not be racist. Another one is whatever your holy book of preference is. Google, hey, what does the Quran say about racism? Or what does the Bible say about racism? Because it gives you more ammunition to know that, hey, I shouldn't be this way. Because we've been taught that it's okay. Another, again, a group I hold in low regard, what are some of their strengths? What are some things that's undeniable I have to give them credit for? And then how can those strengths, the strengths of those individuals or their racial group, how can it benefit the whole country? And I'm done. All right. Again, if you would like a bibliography, because like I said, this is a cheat code for you guys who might need to do a report soon. Just email me and say, hey, I met you in Australia. Australia, am I pronouncing? Australia? Yes. Can you please send me the bibliography to the data you presented?